Welcome to Ancestral Wisdom, where the wisdom of the past guides our future. Today I'm going to talk a bit about the ruins, what they are, and how to meditate upon them. And we'll go specifically over the first ruin, Fehu. So what are the ruins? In my video on who Odin really is, I discussed the idea that the ruins are the genetic encryption, the code that is in our blood that we have as an inheritance from our ancestors. And that in the womb we are Odin, of course, and we metaphorically gather the ruins, the ancient knowledge, and then we are brought into this world with that genetic encoding, with those ruins, those large concepts flowing ever within us. And that's, of course, one way to look at and use the ruins spiritually. But, of course, as in everything with our myths, there are multiple layers and levels of symbolic meaning. And so one of the ways to use the ruins is just as advice. Each ruin can represent different types of life advice that you can use to make your life better by meditating upon it and by thinking deeply about it. And if you spend some time each day thinking about the meaning of each ruin, eventually, after doing so for some time, you will become a wiser, better person for it. And you'll learn from that process, because the concepts inherent in the symbolism of the ruins are deep and meaningful and have something to teach us. How else can we use the ruins? Well, we can use the ruins in magic rites. And if you're coming to this without really understanding what magic is, then that might seem a little outlandish, but all magic really is, well, I guess that might be the subject for another video, but it's nothing supernatural. It's very psychological. One example of magic is if you wish for something hard enough, like wishing for something is magic, right? Well, because if you wish for something hard enough and you forge the pathways in your brain to connect to that idea, then that idea will be in your focus. It will become an aim. It will become something that your brain associates with the things it should be aiming for each day. And of course, if you aim for something each day, then you're more likely to get it. So by wishing for something, you have a better chance of getting it than if you didn't have it on your mind. So that's one example of magic. But magic is purely psychological, and you can use the deep, meaningful symbols of the runes to work magic in your life. And there are ways that you can do that, and I can definitely talk about that in future videos. If you're interested, leave me a comment. So Fehu. Today we're going to meditate on Fehu. And that leads me to another way that you can use the ruins. You can use them as the basis of a meditation. And now this meditation can be any form, or I'm not going to tell you exactly how to meditate yourself. Me personally, I meditate while I'm doing the Wim Hof technique, which I discussed in a previous video, a video regarding how to cure spring allergies. And so I always use that time, the time that I'm in the cold shower, the ice bath, to meditate upon the ruins. But you can integrate it into any form of meditation. That could easily be just sitting down quietly, breathing in a relaxed way, looking at an image of the ruin, and thinking about its meaning. It could be that simple. So what is Fehu? Fehu is, of course, there are different layers of meaning. The mundane meaning of Fehu is normally said to be cattle. And cattle, of course, in ancient times was a form of mobile property. It wasn't something that was fixed, right? It's not only property, it's not only money, but it's mobile property. It's mobile power. And because of that, they use that word to be the surface symbol to an idea of movable energy, of energy that is in a state of flux, that energy that is filled with potential. And in the Norse mythology, of course, that idea of potential energy is embodied in the location of Muspelheim. And of course, in the beginning of times, that's the myth of the North of how things came to be. You had Muspelheim, which was the place of fire, and you had fire and ice come together. Fire is energy, ice is matter. And so energy plus matter equals life. So Muspelheim is that energy. It's not the life itself, because you need matter, you need the ice for that, but it's the energy which can trigger the forming of matter, which means it could be the impetus for any materialization. That's why Fehu is often used for magical rites related to creation. Or let's say you were going to hang a charm around your neck, and you wanted that charm to fill you with the powers of potential possibility, the energy which can turn into creation, and you might choose Fehu as a charm for that. Fehu also, because of its association with creation and with mobile energy, it represents what in the Norse mythology, and forgive me if I mispronounce it, Haminga, I believe is the correct pronunciation, but that is the concept which is similar to karma, which most people would probably be familiar with. But it's the, let's say, luck, the earned luck that is passed down from generation to generation that we earn through good deeds in our lives. And so that is one form of mobile energy from a ancestor to the next generation, and even in your own life. So Fehu is a symbol of that. It's a symbol of that Haminga. If you do good things will happen to you. And that's it's not as metaphysical as it might seem. For example, the things that we do in life, if you are going to, let's say, become stronger-willed person, well, if you succeed in being strong-willed once, the psychological effect of that one success, it becomes addicting, right? And one success leads to another, leads to 4 more. And oftentimes in life, things that you do don't just grow steadily or decrease steadily or stay the same, they're exponential. And the same thing is true for decline. Decline is often exponential. It's not just a matter of small steps until you're at the bottom. It's a few small steps, and then it gets worse, and then it gets really bad. Any decline or ascent in life tends to be exponential. And so it would make sense for one act to lead to something similar to it. And that idea of mobile energy and Hyominga, that type of karma that the Norse people believed in, is related to that. Fehu often, because of that, because of its association with the gifts of the ancestors, the gift of Hyominga in this particular case, it's associated with the glow around burial mounds. And so, since it's a concept associated with that mobile power, and there is no mobile power as important or as meaningful as the mobile power of knowledge or wisdom or genes or Hyominga from one generation to the next, it's very often seen as a symbol related to burial mounds. And so an otherworldly glow, I believe I read once, was a sign of Fehu, an otherworldly glow around burial mounds. So a few other ways. I mentioned one way to use this rune in magical workings. A few other ways that you can use it in magical workings, anything related to the concepts that we just mentioned. So fertility would be one example. It would be a great first rune in a fertility rite. It would be a great rune for artists to call upon. It would also be a great rune to use in a combination of runes as the first rune, because it provides that impetus. It provides the spark needed for the other runes to do what you want them to do. And so in a magic spell, it's a great first rune to make sure that the rest of the magic spell works the way that you want it to work. I'll give you one example of that. When I first was thinking about runes and trying to use them to make my life better, I took the first 3 runes and I put them together as a charm. And the first rune, Fehu, was the spark. The second rune, Uruz, was the health. I wanted the spark to help begin the process of materializing health and reinforcing health for myself on the physical plane, because I was very ill at the time. And then Thurzaz is a third rune, which is a form of protection. So anything that would prevent that health from manifesting, for me to ward off. And so those first 3 runes, I would wear them as a charm. I made a charm for them, and I would meditate upon them each day, and I would feel that charm upon my neck, and I would constantly remember the wish that I had for myself, the wish that my inspiration would spark the manifestation of health and ward off anything that might get in the way. And because I constantly had those ideas, those concepts in my mind, my soul began to aim at those things consciously and unconsciously and subconsciously. I was constantly aiming for those things, whether I knew it or not. And so the magic worked. Whenever I made a choice of what meal I was going to have, those runes echoed in my mind, and I chose the meal that would bring health. Whenever someone came with a vice that was going to get in the way of those goals, those runes echoed in my mind. And I made sure not to be tempted by that vice. So, what I'd like for you, if you would accept the invitation, is for you to find a way to use the runes in your life as we go over each one. again, it could be as simple as just sitting down, relaxing, breathing deeply, and thinking about all of these things, all of these aspects of the rune that I mentioned. Or it could be more complex. Magic spell. Fehu. Fehu. Ansusraido kena Gebo onjo hagala Now this is a yera You was Petro Elga So hilo divas Berkano ewo mana Laguzing was dega Othala